All right, let's go ahead and get rolling. I want to value everybody's time here. We're going to keep you for about 45 minutes or so. Uh, just kind of, just going to do a quick intro to Andrew, and he's going to pull up the screen. Andrew, make
Yeah,
sure you
yeah.
can share it. You should be able to share on that. Make sure you can.
Hmm.
Um, but basically, one of the things that being in real estate for as many years as I have been, and being as known as the godfather of lead conversion, which is still funny to me. They actually wanted to call me the grandfather of lead conversion. I wouldn't let them do that. It just sounded too old. Godfather sounded so much cooler. Um, but what I've found over the years is people have these big databases, and our database was always somewhere between 50 and 100,000 leads. And what happens is you get to your leads that you can get to, but there's all these leads that are sitting there that nobody gets to. So the reason why I wanted to have Andrew come on is I want to introduce you to his program is because first of all, it's an amazing program. Andrew's almost as cool as me. I'm working with him, trying to teach him how to be cool, but he's a kid, so he's tough. But the reality is, all of you have leads in your database that you are missing deals on. And I'm going to give you a quick stat on that, and then I'll introduce Andrew. I did a thing with a friend of mine, and we called 1,000 people, not called, we contacted 1,000 leads that were 2 years or older. And remember, our conversion rates were 6% of registration leads, which were off the charts, right? Those are really, really big. And we contacted that. We found 38% had bought a house. Remember, our conversion rates were 6%, which was the best in the country for registration leads, right? 38%. And then 28% more, I'm sorry, it was 30%. And then 28% more were still looking to buy. So that's a conversion rate of 58%. Think about that. The average conversion rate on a realtor database is 1%. 1%. And we know it's because you're not in front of them when they're thinking about buying or selling. That's really what it comes down to. So Andrew and I have been talking now for a few months and working on some stuff together. And I will tell you, I don't meet too many people that I'm impressed with because I'm so impressive. Sure I am. I don't meet too many. Sorry, that's bad. But I can tell you, this guy is switched on as you'll ever get, and the program that he's built for you to re-energize your database is off the charts. So Andrew, I'm excited to have you on board, and take it away. It's yours. Go for it.
All right, sweet, sweet. Well, thank you for the very kind introduction, Mitch. Like he said, I'm quite almost as cool as him. I'm just quite getting there, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to see everybody in the chat there. San Diego, just asking everybody kind of where they're out of. Oregon, what's up, Janine, Jessica, Millard, Ron. And I might as well just share. I'm out here in Sacramento, California. So I guess good morning to all of the people on the West Coast here, and I guess happy lunchtime for everybody on the East Coast there. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. So again, like what Mitch was talking about, a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today is just database re-engagement and how a lot of you guys are probably sitting on your next, maybe 1, 2, or even 3 deals just within the leads that you've already generated and paid for that are just sitting in your database, whether that's in an Excel spreadsheet or on maybe your CRM, or God forbid, maybe on your phone in your phone contacts. But who knows where you're keeping your database, but you're more than likely probably sitting on your next couple of deals. So hopefully in this presentation here, you'll be able to see how to pull out some deals from that database. So first of all, just kind of letting you guys know, again, a little bit about the kind of frame that I like to tell a lot of agents is like, hey, your CRM isn't empty, right? You're most likely, you have a lot of leads, right? If you want to, you can put a 1 in the chat, just kind of engaging with you guys a little bit. Put a 1 in the chat if you do have like a couple hundred leads at the very least sitting in your database, whether that's, again, in a CRM or in like a spreadsheet somewhere, or even on your phone, right? I'm sure. There we go. Okay. So yeah, a bunch of people are sitting on a ton of leads that you've already paid for in the past, maybe organically generated, but you're sitting on these leads and you're not talking to all of them, right? Like Mitch was just saying, it comes down to timing. And so just following up and actually getting that timing down of hitting them up at the right time can drastically change a lot of kind of your success in real estate, because most agents don't really have a lead problem. It's that follow-up and conversion problem. So That's what we're going to be hopefully helping you out kind of solving today. So just to clarify again, this isn't talking about kind of lead generation. We're not going to be talking about like paid ads or marketing today or anything like that. We're reactivating and re-engaging past demand. So we're kind of re-sparking those real conversations that you've maybe already had with people or maybe not, but re-engaging with those people that are already in your database. Okay. So you can use, there might be a couple of words thrown around in here like reactivating, re-engaging, re-engagement, regeneration, all kind of one and the same, right? Whatever word you want to use, all pretty much kind of the same there. So, yeah, and really quick, what I want to show you guys here is the cost comparison between paying for new leads and then actually running one of these kind of database reactivations, right? Also put a one in the chat here if you're maybe running paid ads right now, or if you're maybe doing some sort of like paid channel of advertisement. That way you can kind of see just a little bit, okay, John Miller, okay, sweet, yeah, okay, sweet. So if you guys are paying for ads, I'm sure you guys know, right, it can be kind of costly, and especially depending on your area, right? If it's a little bit more competitive, I know down in Oregon, San Diego, West Coast here, it kind of be really competitive, especially in California. And the lead cost, yeah, exactly, John, kind of a waste of money sometimes, depending on the platform you're using. It can really kind of gudge your pockets a little bit in terms of the cost of it. You're going to be 80, 100, maybe even a couple $100 in some competitive areas just to generate one lead that may or may not convert. And they may just end up sitting in your database, kind of, I like to say, collecting digital dust, right? So, but on the other side, we have running kind of a database reactivation or re-engaging with those past leads, right? And a lot of the times we'll go into kind of the best way I like to go about doing it, but a lot of the times it's with text messages. And so when you're sending out text messages to these people, it's usually a fraction of a cent. You can kind of see on the thing there. It's usually anywhere from a fraction of a cent to like 1 cent per message that you're sending out. So if you got, let's say, 10, 20, or let's just go with like 1,000 leads, that would be around $10 right there. So you can see just the cost comparison between that. I love showing agents that, and they're just kind of mind blown about like, oh, I didn't even realize that I could actually send a message out to all of these leads, and it would only cost me a fraction of the price that it would cost me to generate one lead with paid advertising, right? So hopefully it kind of paints a picture of just the cost comparison between these two kind of methods. Again, I have nothing against paid advertising. I've run paid ads for quite a while for a lot of agents, generated a ton of leads, but that's kind of why I switched into this, was because I noticed, hey, you could generate hundreds of thousands of leads, but converting and re-engaging with those past leads, that's a whole different story, right? A lot of the times you're going to generate those leads and then just sit on them. And like I just said, I love this phrase, let them collect digital dust. And that's what you don't want to do, right? So just to recap here, this is probably a slide. If you want to take pictures on any of these slides or write down any notes or anything like that, totally fine with that. If you want to take a picture of this real quick, you can. I'm just going to move on in like 3 seconds here. Okay. So really what a database reactivation is, or a database re-engagement is, it's a done for you system. It's not going to be like another tool on your toolkit or like a software onto your software stack or anything like that, but it's a done for you system a lot of the time that reaches out to your old leads via SMS, and it's going to restart those conversations naturally. It's not going to feel spammy, and the right way it's done is, again, it's going to feel very human. It's not going to be spammy or anything like that. It's not going to come out. I'm sure you guys probably get like campaign text all the time about like political campaigns and things like that, or even like job opportunities, right? You probably get text messages like that. It's going to be kind of the opposite of that, right? So it's going to be automated, but it's not going to feel automated. That's kind of the main goal there. And then when somebody replies, again, that positive reply is what we're looking for, and that's going to get delivered right over to you. So you're really just kind of, hey, oh, see, a person replied yes. Let me get back to them real quick here. They said they were interested, kind of getting a couple hand raised, right? That's all we're kind of doing here, is generating new opportunities from those older leads that you have sitting in there, right? So, and again, from there, you would pretty much just handle, your booking and the rest of the conversation how you normally would, right? A lot of the times, some people, like me included, would kind of give you like maybe a little script or maybe a little template of a message to reply with. But again, the whole point of the whole system here is just to re-engage and re-spark those conversations, because the more conversations you're having, a lot of the time, the more success you'll have in real estate. So real quick here, I want to dive into some basic stuff of a really successful database campaign that I would be running, and kind of the non-negotiables that I go through and the checklist that I go through to make sure everything is good to go and you're going to get the best results possible. So the channel, again, you could do like Mitch was just talking about earlier, you could do text messages, you could do emails, you could do phone calls. In this case, for at mass and at scale, you're not going to be able to do 100 or maybe 200 300 phone calls in a day. Maybe you are if you're a cold calling master, but for the most part, if you want this to be automated and run in the background in a system you don't really have to worry about, you want to focus on text messages, and that way you're hitting people up on this little device here that people got, and they're making sure that you're hitting them right in their palm of their hands, right? Emails, you may or may not land in the inbox, but I would focus on, again, text messages. If you don't know what SMS is, that's basically like a green bubble text message, like you're sending out from like an Android phone or maybe like a CRM, right? If you send a message out from a CRM, that's basically an SMS. And then iMessage, of course, I'm sure we all know what iMessage is. That's like the blue bubbles that you're sending out like from an iPhone. So if you wanted to, like I said, the volume that I would be aiming for is 100 a day SMS at the very least. If you're sending this out from your CRM, I would at least go for 100 a day or 50 a day on iMessage. And I'm pretty sure last time I checked, Apple doesn't even let you go beyond 50 new messages a day. So stick with that 50 number, maybe even go a little bit less just to make sure you're not, screwing up your iPhone number or your Apple ID or anything like that. If you are sending messages out manually, like from your phone, or maybe you got a VA or somebody doing it for you, which I would honestly, iMessage is kind of a little hidden gem here. It really works quite well because it's that blue message and you're hitting people up and they're like, wow, this, there's no way this is spam. Like, it's a blue message. It's coming from another iPhone, coming from another human, right? And again, the whole goal of this here, just to reiterate that, is just re-sparking existing conversations. You're not going to try and pitch anything just quite yet. Maybe you might in the reply, but I'm going to go into a couple of templates here. Stick around in the next couple of slides. I'm going to show you guys some templates of what I mean here about just re-sparking the conversation, just sounding human, not trying to be spammy or promoting a listing or be kind of promotional or anything like that, right? So real quick here, I'm going to just let you guys know I'm moving on to the next slide if you're writing this down or anything like that, or take a picture of this real quick here. But this would be kind of the framework that I would follow here every single time I'm setting these up for agents, which is the kind of framework that it really just proves the results. And just make sure if you stick with this framework, especially at the bottom there, that kind of little formula, you're going to see some results here. And, I aim for anywhere from maybe like a 2 to 5, maybe even 8% reply rate. It depends kind of on the database, but anywhere from like 2 to 5% is a good little target for you for reactivating and re-engaging with your database. And so every high performing or really successful campaign that I've run, it sounds human. It contains a little bit of context about like why you might be hitting them up. And then there's one clear question. That's it. Really, those three things are the main major points you want to touch on there. And then just make sure you don't have any links in the opener, because the links kind of, that's what adds into the kind of spammy part of it, right? You can follow up with the link after they reply. That's totally fine. But in your opener, make sure you don't put any links. And we're going to be kind of doubling down on this, showing you a couple more things to kind of do's and don'ts in a couple more slides here. But this bottom little formula, definitely make sure this is a little writer downer for you here at the bottom there, is just state their name, like, hey, Andrew, or hey, Janine, or hey, Kara, or hey, John, and then contain a little bit of context. We're going to show you some messages in the next couple of slides here, but just, hey, John, this is Andrew from my company here. Just got this new number maybe for my Florida folks. Just kind of give them a little context of why you're hitting them up, and then one simple question. Okay, I want to actually move into these next slides because these ones are probably the whole really value packed slides on the whole presentation here. Is these next couple of ones where we're just going to give you some kind of templates that you can steal and probably use today. Even if you're just manually texting people, feel free to use a couple of these. But I just wanted to let you know I'm moving on from this slide here. So make sure you write the formula down on the bottom there, name, little micro context or kind of soft reasoning of why you're hitting them up so they can understand that, and then just one simple question, usually like a yes or no question or just a really straightforward simple question, right? So The first one here, we're going to have examples for sellers, buyers, and investors really quick here, okay? So again, following that kind of formula at the top here, this is a perfect example that I've used in the past here for sellers and reaching out to past sellers, right? All you're saying is, hey, contact first name. So this is be like, hey, Andrew, or hey, John or Mary. This is Andrew with Upscaling Now, or this is Andrew with Mitch Reback's team here. New number for my San Diego folks. I always love using the new number line if you're hitting them up from a new number. If you have a past conversation with them, I'd probably leave that out. But that's if like you're getting a number on your CRM and you're running this tactic kind of through your CRM, you're most likely getting a phone number on there. And so it gives you kind of a reason to re-engage with them and say, hey, I just got this phone number for my San Diego folks or for my Florida folks, right? And putting this little contact city and putting their city in there where they're located really helps with that human touch and that personalization. So that's a nice little touch I like to put in there. If you are hitting people up just from a previous conversation thread and it's not a new number or anything, probably leave that out, right? And you can just jump straight to the second line, which is giving them a little bit more context, saying, hey, you were on my website a little while back. Super quick question or super quick yes and no. If someone made you a solid offer for your home, would you think about it? Little, just simple as that. It's not robotic. It's not spammy. There's little to no pressure. And again, you're giving them a reason behind the why behind the message of why you're hitting them up there. And again, it's just re-sparking that conversation. And you can totally see how this is a little bit different from a lot of other spammy kind of messages. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, we're trying to be the opposite of that and really sound human. Again, it is an automated text. We're kind of putting this into an automated system, hopefully, because that's where the results will come is at scale when you're sending this at bulk. But you want to make sure it doesn't feel automated. That's the main thing behind this. And the psychology is making sure it doesn't feel spammy. And that way you're going to see a lot of results from this. So just real quick here, make sure you take a picture or something or steal this. Totally fine with stealing this little example here. This has worked really, really well for a lot of the agents I've worked with. So if you're working with sellers and you got a lot of sellers in your database or anything like that, feel free to use this message here. I'm going to move over though to the next slide, which is going to be a buyer message. A lot of these are very similar, but just ever so slightly structured to the person that you're targeting, right? So in this buyer example, you're really just going to be hitting people up saying, hey, you were recently looking at some listings on my website. Are you still looking to buy, or did you already find something? Right? Just something along the lines of just not very easy to reply. That's something that a bottom line I look at as at the kind of last thing I do when I'm looking at a message I created and I'm like, okay, I'm about to send this out here. The last question I ask myself is this easy to reply? Is it very low to little to no pressure? And you're just kind of getting them to reply, re-sparking that conversation, even if it's just a simple yes, right? All you're aiming for in the first opening line here is just getting a bunch of hand raised, right? And then from there, you can dwindle those down and kind of qualify them, get them onto a call with you and take them from there. But the initial opening line here, the opening text, you're just trying to get a bunch of hand raised here, right? So hopefully you can kind of see maybe this gets the gears turned a little bit of some people that maybe you have in your database that you are thinking of right now that you could hit up with some of these messages here. So feel free to steal this, copy and paste this, or take a picture of this or a screenshot. Totally fine with that. We're going to move on to the last example here, which is an investor example. And for the most part, I kind of, again, structured them very similar, just using the name, the micro context or kind of the soft reason, and then a simple question at the end there that's really simple and easy to reply to. So for this example, just saying, hey, are you actively looking for deals right now or on pause? I've got some properties you might be interested in. This one actually, you can see it asks the question first and then gives the soft reason of, hey, I've got some properties you might be interested in. And then, I guess it does that after the question, right? You can kind of switch swap those a little bit around. I find that it works pretty much the same, but just making sure you have those pieces in the text message is really what's key there. So you can see how I kind of swapped it around, but this is still a really proven, really great message to send out. So hopefully you guys took a little screenshot or kind of, wrote those down there. I'm going to move on to the next slide here, which is a really important slide. Not only the templates here to kind of take away from this, but making sure you're protecting your database. So I want to make sure you guys not just kind of taking these messages and then maybe blast them out to a ton of people or anything like that. There is a little bit of compliance and just kind of guidelines that I would make sure you want to stick to when you're sending out these messages, which is making sure that you're not sending any messages that have all caps, not spammy words or long messages. And really what you can do is once you have your message, quick little hack here that I didn't actually put into the slides, but you can actually go to ChatGPT or your favorite little AI and LLM, and you can actually ask it like, hey, give it some context. Hey, I'm hitting up a ton of old leads, running a little database re-engagement campaign, and I'm sending out this text message right here. And I want to make sure it's going to be strong, compliant, and deliver to all of my messages or all of my people here. So just make sure that I'm touching all the bases of that formula. Give it that formula that I showed you a couple slides ago, and then it will actually just round things out. Just make sure it's clarifying with you and confirming with you, hey, this is a good message to go. Sometimes I'll do that just to clarify if I'm really hesitant about something. I'll ask a ChatGPT or I'll ask AI real quick, just like, hey, here's my formula, here's my message. Is there anything else you might want to touch up on? Any other recommendations? Because there are some things that it might kind of bring to mind that you wouldn't have thought of. So again, just making sure you're not sending any all caps messages or anything like that, right? No links in the first message. That's a really, really key one, is no links in the first message, because a lot of carriers will look at messages when you're sending a message to the person for the first time and there's a link in there. They might have that come up like on your iPhone or on your phone. If you see the bottom of the message or a new conversation, it says, hey, this might be spam, or, report and put in your junk folder. That's what's going to come from those little links in the messages. So if you leave the link out, there's probably not going to be any like kind of spam triggered or scam triggered kind of things on the carrier side of things. So just make sure that you're not sending any links in the first message. Totally fine after that first message. Once they reply, you can say, oh, awesome, here's my link to book on my calendar, or here's my website for a little bit more information. That's totally fine, but just make sure you're not sending a link out on that first opening text there. Another really, really good tactic is making sure you're keeping the emojis to a minimal. If you're on iPhones and you're sending out a message from your iPhone, that's totally fine. But with SMS, a lot of the times from your CRMs, they don't really tell you. But if you put an emoji in the message and you're sending out one of those SMS messages from your CRM, the cost actually goes up quite a bit, almost even like 3 cents per message that has an emoji in there, versus, again, I showed you earlier the cost of it, like a fraction of a cent to 1 cent. So it almost triples it when you have an emoji in there. So just keep those down to a minimal, or just don't even put any in there. That's totally fine. You'll still get results even if you don't have an emoji in there. So just wanted to put that in there because it does, on the back end of things, kind of cost a little bit different. It actually ups the cost quite a bit. And then last thing, just to make sure that you're verifying your numbers. And usually in CRMs, there's a lot of places where you can verify your numbers in your CRM. But if you don't have a CRM like Follow Up Boss or Bold Trail or Lofty or something like that, you can actually search on Google. I should have kind of put one in here, but you could search on Google like phone verifying service or phone verifying software. And there's a couple of tools that you can just paste in a database or a long list of phone numbers, and they'll verify them for you. And then it'll spit out all of the phone numbers in that list that were verified and good to go. That right there, honestly, this last one, it can really help you guys out, because you want to be delivering to numbers that are actually deliverable to you. You don't want to be sending messages to landline numbers. If you got 3,000 people, maybe you verified the numbers and it came out to around let's just say 1,500 people, and the other half were just, duplicates or maybe unverified numbers or landline numbers, right? That could drastically change your results. And you're wasting a lot of money if you're going to be sending text messages to those numbers that are undeliverable. So you just want to make sure that you're cleaning up that database a little bit before you send out the messages. And then as you go along and collect more leads, you're verifying them as well. So again, real quick, I'll kind of leave the slide up here and just kind of make sure you guys get this, because this is a really important slide here. You want to make sure you're not burning your list, burning your number, or like, kind of like we were talking about in the chat there with paid advertising, you're not burning money here. You want to make sure you're spending the money in the right place here, and making sure when you're sending out these messages, even though it is very cheap, you want to make sure you're sending out the messages to people who can actually receive it, right? Because it adds up over time. If you're spending maybe $10, $20, $30 a week, or maybe a month, right? Over time, you don't want to look back and be like, oh man, half of those people I was sending messages out to didn't even get delivered. Like, oh my gosh. So you don't want to do that. I've done that before. And trust me, it's a really sucky feeling. So definitely verify your numbers, okay? Make sure you're staying compliant and everything like that. kind of one of the last slides here. We pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover, but one of the last things here is just kind of what happens when they reply. Want to make sure, hey, if you have a CRM where you're kind of building this out in, you want to make sure, again, all of the positive replies, the interested, it's the wants more info, they route over to either you if you're a solo agent, or maybe your ISA if you're on a team, or you have an ISA, or maybe a VA. You want to make sure they get that immediately. Speed and follow through is a big piece of this success, as Mitch has always talked about in his books and whatnot. Follow up and the speed of the follow up is a really big key. So if you get on the phone with them, the sooner you can get on the phone with them as quickly as possible after they reply, the better, right? The more results you're going to see. And the conversion rate is just going to go down a little bit more and more the longer you wait there. So you want to get on the phone with them as soon as possible. Any other replies other than the yeses or the positive replies, you could put into your pipeline, right? Anything like that, any other questions, kind of neutral replies, or, hey, I'm thinking about it, add to your pipeline. You can get back to those later, but definitely put the priority on those positive replies, right? And if it helps you out, I would suggest getting a template, kind of a little message that's very generalized that you could send out to basically anybody that has a positive reply, but not automating that. So just having that in your notes or somewhere where you can copy and paste. Because let's say, I've had agents before where we turn on their campaign, they'll get a bunch of messages in the same day, maybe like 20 or 25 messages, like positive replies on a good day. And then they're sitting there wasting they're taking up their time replying to all of those people, right? Where if you have a template saved and ready to go, you can kind of paste that into there, maybe adjust a few words, maybe take a sentence out real quick and then send it off. And it just saves you a lot of time. So I would suggest on the reply side of things, get a little template ready to go. So then that way you're good to go. You can just, once they get that reply, boom, you can send out that little message to kind of book a call with them or get them onto your website, and so on and so forth. And then, I would really suggest maybe if they're not interested or they even say, unsubscribe or something like that, just to make sure that you're not, just remove them from your database, right? There's no reason to kind of keep them in there. So, again, the whole outcome of running a really well done, really successful built database reactivation is just, you're going to get more replies from old leads and more opportunities. It could be listing opportunities if you're working with sellers, but if you're buyers, just more opportunities in general from those leads that you've already generated and you've already paid for. And more than likely, you're kind of sitting on just collecting digital dust, right? So again, without hopefully any increase in ad spend, if you want to keep running paid ads, feel free to do that. But hopefully this will make those paid ads that much better and help you convert a lot of those leads that you're already generating and already paying for. So if you're asking yourself, maybe last little couple of slides here, if you're asking yourself maybe like, is this a fit for me? Like, I'm not too sure. Like, I haven't really heard of this before. I've maybe heard a couple people doing this. Is this a really good fit for me or not? Kind of wanted to put the last slide here of, if this is a good fit for you, if you are sitting on hundreds of thousands of passive leads, whether it's in a CRM, in your spreadsheet or something like that, and you're letting them collect digital dust. I love saying that because it's so true that a lot of the time as real estate agents or just business owners in general, will generate a ton of leads, will convert a certain percentage, and then the other amount will just let sit there, collect digital dust. And that's that you like I said, with real estate in general, you could probably have your next couple of deals just sitting in that database that's maybe collected a little dust right there, right? And you just need to re-engage with them, re-spark those conversations. And again, if you're already generating leads with paid advertising, this is a great way to convert more of those leads. And also if you're kind of just using basic follow-up sequences, or maybe you got like a simple newsletter, right? This takes it to that next stage where you're hitting people up on their phone in the palm of their hands there. And it really is a great fit if you're one of these people that you're thinking about that right now, if you're kind of fit some of these criteria here. But yeah, other than that, if this does seem like a good fit to you, we're going to open it up to some questions here in a second here. So if you guys have any questions about stuff like this, or any clarifications or anything about how to run one of these campaigns here on your own, we're going to have open up the floor for kind of a little Q&A with Mitch here. But if you do think that one of these little database reactivations or re-engagements could help you out, Mitch and I have kind of wrapped something up for you guys and put something together really special for you guys. And it's pretty kind of exclusive, I guess, for everybody kind of on the webinar here, which is a free setup of a database reactivation campaign. So I normally charge a couple $100 to kind of set these up, get these going. But this is something that, since partnering with Mitch here, I'm completely fine with doing a free setup for you guys. And so that way we can get things going, get things rolling for you. And it's a lot like if you've ever done the Zillow Flex program or the Zillow Zillow Preferred program. If you ever heard of that, they just rolled it out recently where Zillow will promote your listings without charging any upfront fee or any kind of daily ad spend, but then they'll just take a cut of commissions. And it's very similar to that, but not similar in the sense that Zillow does, I think, like 40, even sometimes 50+% of commission. So we're basically the same exact thing as that, same kind of structure or model of the program there, but way less commission. As you can see here, just about 20% of the commission there. So yeah, I don't know if Mitch wanted to kind of let's call it clarify some things there, but yeah, this is just something kind of exclusive for you guys on the webinar here that Mitch and I kind of put together for you guys. So
Great.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm gonna put a link in the chat box. So if you're
yeah,
interested, just fill out that form, and Andrew will connect with you.
yeah,
There's a couple of questions in here, and I have a couple of questions too.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to run through mine, and then Steven, I'll get to yours in a couple minutes, um, and a couple other people. So what is the minimum amount of leads for someone to do this
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
want to hire your services?
A lot of success with these really does depend on the database itself. So the quantity of the leads and the size of the list and the quality of the leads, because you can have a smaller list but have a higher quality people that maybe people you've hit up in 36 months or so, and you get good results with that, or a large list but that's pretty low quality, but if you're doing bulk and a good volume there, you'd still get good success. So there's a little bit of a range. I usually look for anywhere between 500 to 1,000 leads minimum. And that way I'm able to kind of find that sweet spot there just in case if it, I never know really the quality of your guys' list or anything like that. But from what I've worked with, usually around 500 to 1,000 leads in there, somewhere in that range, usually is a good starting point from there. And then as you go along, you'll kind of generate more leads and go up from there. But usually around 500 to 1,000 leads, that's really a good sweet spot. And if you have less than that, that's something that you could set up one of these campaigns with a VA or with somebody on your own there, just on the side, and be hitting up a couple of people, even on your phone there, just hitting up 20, 30 people a day, and getting some good results with that, just using the messages that we went over here today. So again, just to answer the question, like 500 to around 1,000 in that range there, minimum as leads is usually what I'm looking for there. So
I'm assuming there's no maximum on that.
no, yeah, no maximum. Although, like I said, quality of those leads kind of varies a little bit. So you want to make sure these aren't like skip traced leads or just scraped off the internet, right? That can work. But again, if they're not really in touch with you, this is about re-engaging, re-sparking those conversations. So if you haven't sparked those yet, that can definitely kind of affect the campaign. So yeah.
Cool. How many times do you text them?
I would usually go about texting them once a month. And if anything, usually once a month or twice a month. Twice is usually the number there that I usually get a good amount of replies from, because then the follow-up message, if let's say you hit somebody up on the first week of the month, then you wait a week and maybe the next week you say, hey, just a quick nudge there to make sure you got my message. And you're just kind of bumping up. If you guys on Facebook and you know their little poke thing that you can do on Facebook with friends, kind of the same thing with the follow-up message. That's what this whole thing is about. It's kind of just poking them, saying, hey, just a quick nudge there. If you happen to see my last message, I don't know if you did, but if you did, let me know, right? And so I would usually stick to like 1 or 2 messages per month per contact, because that way you're not spending an egregious amount of money sending out messages to people that aren't replying, but also you're giving them a little bit of time and a little kind of context there to reply. So usually around 1 to 2 per month. And then once you get through everybody in your database, you can kind of go back, see who replied positively, see who you're kind of working with actively, and kind of assess the data and everything and kind of go from there, right? So
Cool. And then the other question I have is how does the text go to the agent? So if they're in there and you're doing the texting for them, and I know it goes directly to them. How does that work?
yeah. Sometimes the way I'll set it up, but it's the same in a lot of CRMs like Follow Up Boss and Lofty. They'll have like little automations, or maybe they call them workflows, where in the system there where you can send these messages at bulk, you can usually add on one little action there that sends you a text message or sends the agent a text message or just kind of sends them a notification. That's the way I always go about doing things, and making sure that you get a text message with all of the information, or the agent gets all the information that they need right in the palm of their hands. And then usually a lot of the times you can also send one at the same time kind of to their email inbox. You want to make sure, you're getting notified for all the positive replies there. So a lot of the times in the system or the CRM that you're setting this up with, you can actually get pinged, and like there's usually a little notification action that you can put into there to make sure you're getting notified or the ISA is getting notified, whoever's handling the replies, making sure that they get notified there and it's kind of getting pinged on their system, and they'll see it. There's a couple of different ways, but usually I like to stick to the phone number and the email, making sure it's coming up in your inbox, both messages and email inbox as well. So yeah.
And then how do you determine which leads to send? So you've got 1,000 leads in the database, but I'm working with
Yeah.
150 of those that I'm in touch with. So I want you to work the other 850. How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of the times when we export the leads from your system and get them into ours, you can either exclude those leads, like if there's a way to tag them, there's a good way to do that. That's very simple and straightforward. If you can tag those leads that you're wanting to exclude, that maybe you're already in talks with, you can do that, and then we'll upload the rest and we'll run the system with the rest. If anything, though, if you're getting some replies back, we're very kind of lenient about this, very transparent about everything. We'll be in touch with a lot of the agents that I work with. So if I happen to generate a lead or a reply with somebody and they're saying, hey, I already work with you, right? We're not going to charge the commission on that if that deal ends up closing. And so we're just in touch with all of our agents about that. So if there happens to be one or two that slip between the cracks there, a lot of the times they'll just communicate with us and make sure, hey, I already have this on my exclusion list, or I already have this in my contacts that I'm working with, and just make sure that everything's pretty much transparent and just good communication on that part. But a good way that if you are, a lot of the times, like 80-90% of the time, you're able to tag those leads on your system before you export them. That's the perfect way to do it, so that those leads don't even end up in the re-engagement system itself. So
Nice. Okay. And then I have a question for you. And this is actually for those of you on the call. I want you to do this little thing. So one of the things I teach people all the time is the reason why people will use you is because you happen to be in front of them when they're thinking about buying or selling. It's that simple. There's no real, yes, I know they love you and all that stuff. But honestly, when I stopped selling houses in 2021, I was getting 40 to 60 calls every single year for my for people that I'd sold homes for referrals and stuff like that. When I stopped marketing to them in 2021, the calls stopped. 2022, I went from 40 to 60 calls to 6 calls, and last year I got one. Right, so it's truly, even though I have great customers, I've sold 1,400 homes. It doesn't always work. So one of the questions one thing that I teach people is in your phone, and you guys want to put this in your chat, you can. I don't know how to do it with an Android, but an iPhone, if you open your iPhone, go to contacts and look at your, and click the lists button on the top left-hand corner, it tells you how many contacts you have. Now, one thing we know about contacts is 7 out of 100 will buy or sell a home, right? That's a 7 out of 100 will buy a home. So if you have 1,000 people in your phone, you've got 70 sales sitting there. So my question for you, Andrew, with that system, can I just give you and put in a database, because it's texting, all of my name? Because the challenge with that is getting the email addresses for all those people, right? So can we put that in there and have them engaged in all your contacts from your phone into a text program when I don't have the email addresses?
yeah, no, 100%. And that's a great question, because I've done that with a couple other agents that for the most part, they're not using a CRM, or they're not using Excel. Maybe they're using like a spreadsheet or Google Sheets, but a lot of their people they're talking with on their phones. And what a great way that you can do that is you can see the contacts, how many you have on your phone, but you can actually log into iCloud on your laptop and then see all of those same contacts on there and then export those. And just the same way, like as from a CRM or something like that, it's just kind of like you're exporting them from your phone. And then that gives you a great way to kind of put them into the system here as well. I've done that with a few agents, and that actually works quite well, because those contacts, like I was talking about earlier, the quality of those, a lot of the times if they're sitting in your phone already, the quality of those are going to be much higher than people that are sitting in a CRM, or maybe came through a website or something along those lines. Maybe they're just in your newsletter or something like that. Maybe you generated them organically, but the ones that are already in your phone there are probably one of the utmost of highest quality that you could have. So that's a great question. And like I said, usually it's just going on to the iCloud.com, finding your app, logging in with your Apple ID, and then you'll see all the contacts there, and you can pretty much just export them straight from there. So yeah.
It took me less than 10 minutes to figure it out. I have zero tech ability.
Yeah.
Andrew, there's a question there if you want to read it from Steve and Norris. Could you read that and respond to him?
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Have you seen conversion gone down from a CRM that says your name and business? Did that make the conversion go down? Not really. And again, that kind of ties to giving them a little bit of soft reason or just context of why you're hitting them up. Again, the spammy messages, if you ever noticed those political campaign messages or any other kind of spam messages that you have, a lot of the times they'll leave out their name and the kind of organization that they're coming from, right? So just giving them a little bit of context, it's that human connection and that human touch. We've definitely tried it the other way, but definitely gets better results, honestly, the other way around when you give them that context of, hey, this is Mitch Reback with the Mitch Reback team here. Just wanted to make sure we're following up with you and seeing if you're, doing any deals right now, right? So just making sure you're giving them that soft reasoning. It's part of that formula there. If you leave that out, a lot of the times, you can test around with it, but like I said, I've tried it before, and a lot of the times it works best when you're giving them that context versus not. And then also, I know Stephen followed up with there saying, where it also says press stop to unsubscribe. That's a great question there. And I was going to touch on that and the compliance and deliverability. It is legal that once somebody, opts in to your website or opts in to receiving messages on you with you, guys, have your contact form on your website. There's that little consent checkbox, right? As long as a contact has done that at least once with your business and your organization or your company, you're free to go to hit them up from maybe another business line or another phone number, and you can leave out that reply stop. You just have to send that on the first message that you send to them. And then let's say in this case, if you're hitting them up from a new phone number and using this system here, you can leave that out as long as they've opted in and they've gotten that message with the reply stop to cancel or stop to unsubscribe at least once. You're good to go. From there, you can just hit them up and leave out that line, and it will actually bring down, that is what will bring the conversion rate a little bit down, is putting that little message in there. Again, if this is a first time you're hitting them up, you kind of do have to put that in there. That's why I always make sure that these are leads that people have opted in, you've engaged with them in some sort of way, and they're not like skip trace leads or they're not scraped right off the internet, because then you'll have to put in that little stop to unsubscribe or stop to cancel. And that will kind of drastically change the reply rates there and drastically change a lot of the positive replies in general. They'll just be saying, stop, right? So,
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and just for those of you asking about slides and stuff, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to send out a copy of recorded all of this to you guys.
oh yeah.
And
Ron,
so
I could definitely go back to the first slide there that Ron was talking about there, 100%.
and then Andrew, if you could send me the slides when we're done, so I can include that with the
Yeah,
email I send to
100%.
everybody.
And yeah, John, you're right there about the no upfront cost or anything like that. Just 20% at closing, 100% correct there. Just pretty much like the Zillow Flex program or the Zillow Preferred program. It's just not as egregious as like the commission cut that they take, right? So just almost less than half of that, but pretty much same exact kind of structure as what they're doing over at Zillow there. So yeah.
All right, Alan, is there anybody else has any questions? There is the link in the chat there. I'll post it one more time. If you're interested, and by the way, the goal with this was to give you enough tools to do this by yourself. But if you do have a larger database, I know as a realtor, and I know realtors really well after 25 years, most realtors say they will get to it, but they never get to it. So, when Andrew and I was talking, the first thing I said, well, I'll only do this if there's no setup fee, because like you guys, I get hit up every day to buy stuff. And then as Andrew and I started talking and learning more about each other, I was just so impressed with the product and himself as a guy. And this is kind of a no-brainer. You're not going to get sales from those anyways. So why not try to get sales? And we all pay referral fees every day for stuff. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, just kind of bounce onto that last little thing there. I love saying to people like, hey, would you rather have 100% of nothing or, maybe a percentage of something, right? And that's kind of the whole concept behind these right here, right? You're going to let them collect digital dust anyway. So you might as well put them to use, pull some levers, put in some work on that database. Even if, like I said, you wanted to take some of those messages that we put into the thing here and try them on your own, totally fine. I guarantee you're going to get some results from that as well. So yeah, I'm excited to hear back from you guys and seeing some results come back from these. So.
Yeah, and I love. I'm going to steal it by the way. The digital dust. Love that line.
Yeah,
That's great. All right. Well, thanks, Andrew, for doing this today for me. I really appreciate it, helping our agents out.
Yeah.
And, everybody on, thanks for coming. And we're here. If anybody needs me, I'm here. As you know, again, fill out the form there. I'll leave this up for another minute or so you guys can get on the form. Again, we'll send out the recording so you have this again. and with the slides, and then reach out to either myself or Andrew if you have any questions.
Sweet,
Thanks,
sweet.
Andrew. I
Yeah,
appreciate you,
thank you
buddy.
so much. And thank you everybody that came on and joined this morning or this afternoon, I guess, for the East Coasters. I'll go back over to the slide here with the little calculator on there. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Even if you just wanted to use the calculator too on this little lead converter slide, it's a great way just to see kind of what you could be missing out in your database there. So it's a great way to just kind of get a little projection of, oh man, this is kind of, I am sitting on a lot of deals right here. I'm sitting on my next couple of deals. So it's just a way to kind of clarify and confirm that you might just be sitting on a couple of deals there. So yeah, again, thank you guys for hopping on here. Appreciate you guys' time. And yeah, thank you, Mitch, as well.
All right, we'll talk to you guys all later. Take care, Andrew. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Talk to you soon, Mitch. Thank you
Take care,
guys.
guys. Bye bye.